In this video, I'll share the things that I did in my first year full-time in my business that, looking back now, I would definitely do differently, and the lessons that I learned because of it so that you can learn these lessons before you make these mistakes. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Cunningham, and I am a relationship coach who specializes in helping people in LGBTQIA+ and non-monogamous relationships. And I started my business part-time in 2017, and then I took it full-time in 2020. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the like and subscribe button so you can get more content, not just about relationship coaching for LGBTQIA+ and non-monogamous folks, but also for relationship videos on actually being in and the specific needs and challenges that come up in these relationships that are not heteronormative or mononormative. So let's start by painting a picture of what life looked like in 2020. As we all know, March 2020 was COVID and there was the shutdown. So I had literally just moved in to a new apartment with my partner, and a week later was the shutdown, and I lost all of my jobs, except for these two relationship coaching clients that I had at the time with my part-time relationship coaching business. So I had filed for unemployment, but because of a glitch in the system, I only got $400, and then I started getting denied unemployment, and then I tried to fix that, and I couldn't because the department was shut down because everything was shut down. So I didn't have a backup income stream because of unemployment failing. But I did start teaching donation-based yoga classes online, but that certainly wasn't making enough money to make ends meet. And I had been wanting to take this relationship coaching business full time. It was the thing that I was doing that I felt most passionately about. It was the thing that I was doing that I love the most. It was the thing that I was doing that I have the most expertise in as well. I just sat myself down one day and had a straightforward conversation with myself that was like, hey, if my previous jobs contact me and ask me to come back, what am I going to say? And my answer was, no, I'm not going to go back. I'm actually going to take this opportunity to start my relationship coaching business full time. And that's what I did. So what I did that really worked at that time was to sit down and assess, what do I already have? What do I already know? And what am I already good at? And what don't I have? What don't I know? What am I not good at that I need to get better at in order to have a successful business? And so what I knew that I already had and what I was already good at was that I was already a really good coach because I'd been coaching for several years and I'd done a lot of training up to that point. I knew that I had a lot of expertise in this area. This is what I got my degrees in. I'd already been working and studying inside of gender, sexuality, relationships, communication, etc. So I knew that I was already solid there. And I already knew that I had a lot of connections, and I already had a pretty big network, and I knew that I was good at sales, that I could have successful conversations with people where they would then become my clients. And so I was like, okay, cool, I'm good there. And then I was like, what are my weakest points here? And I knew that I didn't know almost anything about marketing, business, and finance. So what I thought at the time was that I'll start with marketing because I'm not trying to tackle all three of those at the same time. Or so I thought. We'll get to that in a second. But my initial thought was, I will get better at marketing myself. And for the purposes of this video, marketing is just sharing my services, like how to get the word out there that I am open for business so that people come and work with me. So, since I thought that my weakest area was marketing and promoting myself and sharing that I was open for business, my first mistake was that I was worrying that resources would run out, which again, I have a lot of compassion for my former self because I was barely making any money and I didn't really have another way to make ends meet. And so I was already coming from this scarcity mindset and anxious place because I was like, I need to make rent. I need to eat food. I need to pay my bills. And so it's not the best place to start a business from, but especially a business that's very people focused and service driven, which is what my business is. And that was where I was. And I still had the mindset of, I want to help people. Like, I love doing this. Like, this lights up my whole heart. And I know that I make a difference for people in this area. So it definitely was both. But part of the driving factor was this scarcity. And then inside of that scarcity, I was worried that my resources were going to run out, not just money, but I thought that I was going to run out of people to talk to about my business, talk to about my service as a coach. And I was worried that I would run out of business. So with that worry, I started to look into what resources I could create for myself. And that is something that I'm really good at. But as I look back, coming from this scarcity mindset and me being really good at creating resources, created this monster. And maybe that's a little bit of a dramatic way to say that, but I'll keep sharing with you how that played out in a way that didn't work as well as I wanted it to. So what I was doing was, like I said, I had this network of people already. And so I had the idea that if I called 5 people a day and shared with them that I'm open for business, that I have this new relationship coaching business, and are they looking for a relationship coach, or do they know anyone who's looking for a relationship coach or who wants to build a relationship in this way? I figured that with the network that I had, that resource would run out in a couple of months. So the first resource that I started to make in March 2020 was an entrepreneurial mastermind with a friend of mine. Our idea was that other people were in the same boat as us, where we just went into the shutdown and we were all trying to start these businesses, or we already had businesses that we were trying to keep afloat, or people like me where it's like the business was more of a side hustle before and now we're trying to take it full time. So we were like, well, there's got to be other people who are in our position. And so we wanted to make this mastermind group so that we could be in community, help one another, give each other referrals, and also share resources on how we were building our business. So using that hive mind, so to speak. So we created that. The second resource that I made / continued to do was my podcast. I had been doing a podcast called Love Dripping from the Walls since 2019 that was specifically about polyamory and dating and exploring your sexuality and exploring your attractions and interviewing people about their stories. I decided to keep that going and was learning how to do that completely online because I had been having in-person interviews, recording it, sending it to someone, and then they would send me back the recording. But since I couldn't meet people in person anymore, and the person who I had been working with said that they couldn't work with me anymore, So I was like, okay, well, now I need to do this on my own, and now I need to do this online. So keeping my podcast going was also this big learning curve of learning how to use Zoom, learning how to edit all of my podcasts myself, learning how to produce the podcast, as well as continue to keep it going and reach out to people to interview and start to have social media posts. I just been posting on my personal Facebook about my podcast, and I was like, I need to reach a broader audience, so I should probably start posting on Instagram. And so I was like, okay, now I'm expanding my podcast as well, and I need to keep this podcast going. Also, like, I just love podcasting, and I just was excited to continue to keep it going. And one of my first business mentors at the time really encouraged me to keep the podcast going, because he was like, you have to keep doing something that really fills your heart, especially when you're doing all this hard work and starting to build your business into a full-time business. And so I kept that podcast going. The third resource that I started was actually with this business mentor. And I was coming from this like scarcity, lack mindset, but also like optimistic and new, like the tarot card, the Fool, like that was me. Like I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was like a little bit scared about having no resources, but also like stupidly optimistic about what I could do and what I could accomplish. And so I started this t-shirt and merch design business with that business mentor at the time as well. And I'm going to pause here because I just want to say it is not advisable to try to start two businesses at the same time when you have never tried to start a business before. Now, I had worked for entrepreneurs before. I'd worked as an executive assistant. I'd worked as a studio manager at a yoga studio. I had helped people with their businesses. So I had a general idea of like how I could run my business, but I had never done it myself. And so not advisable to try and start two businesses, but that was the third resource that I created, was this merch and design business, which doesn't exist anymore. Spoiler alert, that business didn't work out, and that's totally fine. And the fourth resource that I made was to sign up for 2 certification programs. So now we're in November 2020. I decided that inside of starting this business full time, that it would be a good idea to expand my knowledge and education as well. So I signed up for the 2 certification programs in November. Both of them were going to start in January 2021. At this point, I really could have slowed down. Like I could have really stopped there. None of these ideas that I had were bad ideas. It's not like it was a wrong thing to do. It was just that I was trying to do so much all at once that I really started to stretch myself thin. I had this mastermind going with a friend of mine that was building community and resources. I had my podcast. I had this second business, which had already started to be like a very small second stream of income. And then I had these 2 certification programs. But the other thing that was happening, if I would have really slowed down and looked at all of the facts, the other thing that was happening was that I was actually starting to make $7,000 to $10,000 every single month at that point. Like I was really ramping up my coaching business, and I was really doing well. Like I was doing awesome, but I still had this mindset of this is going to run out. Like this is good for now, but it's going to run out. So I need to keep building more. And I didn't understand at the time that instead of adding more on, I could have deepened what I already had. But again, that's not what happened. So fast forward to end of December 2020. And I didn't make a lot of money actually December 2020, which kind of added to my fear and anxiety about things running out. I signed up for this business coaching program. And when I signed up for this business coaching program, I had reached my capacity not only for time, not just in my mind, but in reality, I had reached my capacity financially of what was actually feasible for me. So in signing up for this business program, which ultimately I did, I put myself over the edge of what I was financially able to do. And what that started at the beginning of January 2021 was this cycle of me always making money, always generating money, and it always not being enough. And so I became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like I was like, look, see, like all of my resources are running out. I was in the 2 certification programs. I was in this business development program. And then I decided to hire a personal business coach as well. So between all of these things, I couldn't keep up with my own expenses, even though I was making so much money. The other thing that was going on in my personal life was that I was also going through a divorce. And so I was also trying to pay for my divorce attorney. So that was one of my bills. Because of the marriage that I had been in, I was also in a lot of debt. I was paying anywhere between $750 to $1,000 a month in debt, and also trying to recover some of that money from my ex-spouse. I had also told the partner that I had moved in with that I would pay for all of rent because they were doing worse financially than I was. And so I took on the responsibility of full rent at that time too. So again, I just kept adding things to my plate instead of assessing what was working, what wasn't working, instead of slowing down. I've always been someone who has had a lot of energy, and I've always been like a very go, 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 go person. Like even outside of hustle culture, which I was absolutely falling into, but even outside of hustle culture, I'm just someone who has a lot of energy. I like doing a lot of things. It's fun for me to be this Energizer bunny, but even the Energizer bunny needs to rest. And I wasn't using my energy wisely, and I wasn't using my energy efficiently, and I wasn't letting myself slow down enough to really assess what was going on. And I didn't really want to take things off my plate. Everything that I had said yes to felt very purposeful for me, like felt really necessary for me. And so it was hard for me, even under the advice of some of the mentors that I had at the time who told me to take things off of my plate. I said no. And I wish that I would have listened to them and used my energy a little bit more wisely and efficiently. But here we are. I wouldn't be able to make this video for you about my mistakes if I had listened to them. So you're welcome. So those were all of the resources that I had built for myself. So that was all under kind of mistake number 1 of coming from scarcity and lack and thinking that my resources were going to run out. So I just kept building and adding and building and adding and building and adding instead of looking at what would be most efficient at the time. Then the next mistake that I made was inside of this business development program. So we're still in January 2021 at this point. We're still in the first year of making this business. One of the things that it was foundational to this business development program was DMing people, like cold DMs on Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media platform that you chose. And like, I didn't feel super great about doing that. I had a lot of internal conflict about doing that, but that was where mistake number 2 came in, which was I didn't trust my own intuition because I had signed up for this business program. And so I was like, I should do what they tell me to do because I hired them. I'm paying for this. So what ended up happening because of that is that, number 1, I wasted so much time and energy DMing people on Instagram and not really having any sort of like sales conversation with them because I didn't want to. And that's not how I wanted to like approach the people of who I wanted to be my clients. So I spent a lot of time and energy having really deep, great, awesome conversations with people that I was connecting with on Instagram, which was fantastic, but I didn't know how to bridge that relationship building into, hey, do you want to be my client? There was a disconnect for me, and the way that this business program was teaching how to do that really didn't connect with me, didn't land with me. So even though I was in this business program, I was still just doing the same thing that I was doing before to get clients, which was to reach out to my network and ask for referrals and do market research, which part of this program was doing market research. So credit to that program for helping me really like hone in on that market research bit of it. But since I wasn't doing the program how I was supposed to be, I also still felt like I was missing something. And since I couldn't close that gap between starting a relationship with someone to having them become a client, I really felt like there was something that was missing, or I felt like there was something that was wrong with me. And so again, like that mistake to not trust my intuition, to not trust my gut, to not go with what I wanted to do at the time, which ironically enough, in making this video, it was YouTube. Like I wanted to actually create a YouTube channel back in 2021. And I was like, I want to create this YouTube channel and I want to do this and that. And the coaching and advice that I got at the time was like, oh, it takes too long. Like it takes too long to do that. But now I know the nature of coaching businesses, and especially relationship coaching businesses, is the long game, is building relationships, is connecting with people, is offering value like this. And I don't really care what other like marketing coaches or business coaches say about what you should or shouldn't be doing. I really believe that if you're doing the things that really align with you, then you're doing your business the right way because you're doing the things that align with you, that have integrity for you. And you're always going to make mistakes. Like I'm always going to make mistakes. There's always going to be hindsight 2020. But if you're doing things that feel in alignment with you and feel good for you to do, and you have that flow in doing it, then you're going to at least have more fun and not be so like back in January 2021, I was so stressed out that I had a hard time sleeping. My relationships were suffering because of it. Even though I'm a very go, 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 like very energetic person, I was grinding myself to the bone. My mindset at the time was like, well, if I grind this out now and I create this thing that like really makes me a lot of money, then I can do all of that stuff later. I can have my physical health later. I can have good relationships later, which is such a weird thing to say as a relationship coach. And so I was just misled and I wasn't trusting my gut. I wasn't trusting my intuition. So that was the second big mistake that I made. Which then led me to the last mistake that I want to share with you, which since I wasn't trusting my gut, I wasn't trusting my intuition, And not only had I started with this, oh, I'm going to run out of resources, like scarcity mindset, now I had added on, I'm missing something. I'm doing something wrong. I'm the problem here, which had me be very susceptible to a lot of business coaching marketing, which is, oh, do you feel like there's something missing in your coaching business? And I'm like, yes, please help me. And so not only did I have that business program, I was doing high performance coaching. I had a individual business coach. I had my business mentor. Like, my calendar was filled with these coaching programs and business coaches and mentorship and all of these things to try and help me be better, to try and fix that missing piece of me and of my business to actually make things work for me. And and also remember, I'm also in 2 certification programs at the time as well. Oh my God. So I was getting a lot of mentorship. I was learning a lot, and all of that stuff was great. All that stuff was amazing. I don't regret hiring those coaches. I don't regret signing up for those programs at all. Like, I'm very happy with what I learned and what I gained. But did I need to do all of those things at the same time? No. No, I did not need to do all of those things at the same time. And with that being said, one of the things that I learned, so I want to turn this into like, all right, those were the things that hindsight 2020, I was like, that didn't really work, right? And so I want to turn that into, so what did I learn out of all of that? One of the things that I learned about myself is that I am someone who just gobbles up as much information as humanly possible, and I try to like fire hose all of this information at myself. And I know that about myself now. And what I'm trying to do with that is honor that part of me, honor the part of me that just loves learning, is just like a voracious learner, just like loves all of it. Learning just feeds me so much. And I love that part of myself, but it doesn't work when I am trying to pay for and learn from so many different people and places all at the same time. And so I've started to learn how to learn in a controlled flow of a channel instead of that fire hose of learning. Oh, the other thing that I've learned in now having my business for 4 years at this point, 4.5 years almost at the making of this video, what I've learned is that I can trust myself. I can trust my intuition. I can trust what I'm already good at. But I can trust that there will be people who will come into my business, that I will have ideas, and that like in tandem with letting new ideas have a filter system. Like, letting new ideas be like, okay, this is a new idea that I have new ideas all the time. And that's the other thing that I've learned about myself. I've also learned that I have so many new ideas all the time that like fire hose of new ideas needs to be filtered. It needs to be streamlined. That is a gift that I have, but it's a gift that I need to monitor. That I need to work with instead of let it overpower me. And so if I have a new idea, I write it down and I consider that new idea for a while, maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months before I'm like, okay, I've had this idea for a while now. I now see how it fits into my business. I now see what I want to do with that. And then this is how I'm going to implement it. Whereas I used to get new ideas and then try to implement it immediately, which is why I got this huge full plate of things that I had at the beginning of my business. And so learning how to really streamline that as well. Another takeaway, another learning, which is if something doesn't feel right to you, don't do it. Or don't do it immediately. Maybe you can unpack that uncomfortable feeling, and maybe there's something underneath there where it's like, oh, it's actually because I feel really nervous about this, which has nothing to do with me actually doing this. I can handle my nerves here, and then I can take the action. But sometimes that feeling of it doesn't feel right is because it's just not aligned with you. It's just not aligned with who you are, your values, how you want to run your business, who you want to be as a coach, etc. So say no if something doesn't feel right. Again, you can unpack it later and maybe you come back to it and you say yes later. That's totally fine. But if something feels uncomfortable, just say no at first. Like that is my new new approach to things as well, and that has certainly served me a lot for sure. And then some of the other key takeaways were to look at the assets that I already have and work with those. Remember at the beginning of this video where I said my thought at the time was that marketing was actually the weakest part of my business? That wasn't true. I just didn't understand. I didn't have a good understanding of what marketing was or what marketing could be. Actually, marketing was probably something that I was really strong at because I had such a big network. Like I'm a really great person with connections and networking and meeting people and sharing what I'm up to and also creating situations that help other people out as well. And so that also makes people want to contribute back to me too. Like I was already really good at that and I'm still really good at that. And I didn't realize that is my marketing strategy and strategy loosely, because again, it's more of like marketing as it is aligned with me and aligned with what I'm already good at and what I already like to do and what already works for me. So hindsight 2020, it's like, oh, I could have seen that as the asset that it was and just made that deeper and better instead of adding on all these other things that I added on to it instead. My next takeaway, which is just lean into who I am. Lean into what already feels good for me. And I want to clarify that because I still do things that are uncomfortable. I still do things that I'm afraid of. I've been talking about making this YouTube channel I've been wanting to do it for 3 years. I've been talking about it for a year. And now I'm in front of the camera making this video right now. And I've been really afraid to do this. I've had a lot of nerves. I've put it off. I've da 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 da. There have been things that have been uncomfortable about me making this YouTube video, creating this YouTube channel, and it still felt right. Like when I check in with myself, I'm like, yeah, even though I feel uncomfortable and I have a lot of like nerves around this, I still really want to do this. I still really want to have this YouTube channel. And so weighing in, that's what I mean by if it feels good to you. If that when you ask yourself these questions, even if the thing you're nervous about happens, do you still want to have a YouTube channel? Yes. Great. But really leaning into who you are, leaning into that little voice, that intuition, that instinct that you have, and listening to yourself and allowing yourself to work through whatever fears you have and going for it. Certainly, I look back and I'm like, oh, if I would have made this different decision, maybe things would be easier now. I don't know. But I don't regret any of it because it really is all a learning opportunity to just get better at my craft. And my craft is relationship coaching, but my craft is actually also now, after 4 years, being an entrepreneur, has become a skill that I have now that I continue to grow and sharpen and learn inside of. So I don't have any regrets about what I did in the first year of my business. But if anything, it might have been like some of the awkward DM conversations that I had. So if you were any one of those people who may have felt awkward in the DMs, I am very sorry about that. I apologized. I was being a weirdo. I really did want to connect with you, and I really do think that you're awesome, but I also was like trying to get you to be my client, and in a very weird, awkward way. And so if you're watching this video right now, I really apologize about that. So that's something that I've really learned on my journey. And that was all just from year one. And I think, like I said, we're in year 4.5 now. So I'll be making other other videos about what I have learned in other years of my business as well. So I hope this was really helpful for you. I hope that you got a lot of value out of this. If you are watching this video and you're wondering how to become a relationships coach, especially if you want to work with the LGBTQIA and or non-monogamous communities, please reach out to me. You can go to the links that are in the show notes. I created a certification. It's called the Love Mastery Relationship Coaches Certification. What this program is a accumulation of all of the knowledge that I've gained in my degrees and my certifications, all of the work that I've done in my coaches trainings, what I have created as well in my own coaching business, to be able to put together this type of coaching, especially for LGBTQIA plus folks and non-monogamous folks, because if you're in either of those communities, you know how long and tedious a process it is to mull through things and cherry pick the things that are going to work for you. And I've been doing that now for 15 years at the making of this video, and I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on degrees, certifications, trainings. I've spent hours and hours of practice coaching and actual live in-person coaching, and also in my business and actually having clients and coaching other people around these things. And so what I decided to do was to create this certification program for people like you who want to help our community in this way, get the training that you need to be able to hold space for people in such a precious and vulnerable area of people's lives. It does take finesse, and it does take training, and it does take time to cultivate this skill. And so that's why I put this certification program together. So you don't have to go through the thousands of hours and the tens of thousands, and possibly, I think I calculated it's like over $100,000 of training that I've had to go through to get here. So if that's something that you're interested in, please click on the link below for the Love Mastery application and apply for the program. The program starts February every year. So if you're watching this video in January 2025, then the program is going to start in a month. And if you're watching it after that, then you can apply for the next year's program. So I would love to see you in there. I would love to see your application. I would love to connect with you. This is my heart, my soul, my bread, my butter, and I would love to share that with you. Thank you so much for listening today. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the like and subscribe button so you can get more content, not just about relationship coaching for LGBTQIA plus and non-monogamous folks, but also for relationship tips and videos on actually being in and the specific needs and challenges that come up in these relationships that are not heteronormative or mononormative. So thank you again for your time. Thank you for your attention, and we'll see you in the next video.